You know, one of the things I like about the NES launch titles are their box arts. They're all simple, consistent, and labeled. I mean, it's obvious the reason they did so was to establish exactly what the game was all about and not trick consumers into believing they were getting a raw-ass cinematic game only for it to be 4 pixels moving side by side, and also because marketing reasons. But something about these box arts feels special to me. I mean, I never owned or had an NES games in my life and wouldn't get a taste of such for a while, but these things are just so nice to look at. I would not mind keeping these on some sort of shelf. They would look great, honestly. Okay, I'm talking too much on just the box art itself, so why don't we go ahead and check what's on the box art. Here, I'll give you a head start. Find it? If not, it's these labels. These labels help separate games into different genres in order to appeal to consumers interested in games within said genres. One of these we'll be looking at are the ones printed with the Action Series label, mostly because the games listed as such aren't that notable for their own kind of videos, and so I decided to lump them together into one. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Action Pack series for the NES, or at least the ones that came with the launch title. We're going to be looking at 4 exact games, and the first one will be ones that many of you guys might know due to their prominence in Smash Bros. Ice Climbers. Directed by Kenji Miki and programmed by Kazuaki Morita, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, I apologize if I'm not, who would go on and help program Super Mario Bros. Along with Toshihiko Nakago. Ice Climbers lets you play as Popo, also Nana if playing with 2 players, young Inuit mountain climbers who you probably know best as the bastards that can't not be broken in some way in every Smash game, to scale to the top of mountains in order to retrieve food and grab onto the Condor, which is your ultimate end goal, but the food helps gain extra bonus points to your end score. Yep, in case you couldn't tell already, Ice Climbers is a score-based game, because much like the other Action Pack series of games saw release on the arcades first. This version had a ton of extra elements not seen on the NES version, but like with Donkey Kong, I don't give a shit to look at the arcade versions because this is the NES September Review-a-thon, not the arcade winter review bomb-a-thon. Anyways, you're given 32 mountains to scale up to, with each one being faster and more difficult than the others. You start off with your basic platforming and toppy enemies, which were actually seals in the Japanese version, to help test your jumping, traction, and mallet swinging. God damn, now I see why they changed the sprites. That shit would not have slide during the Reagan era. You can also break away platforms to reach to the next level and continue to do so until you reach this bonus spot, which has a variety of fruits and vegetables dependent on which mountain you play, and the Condor that will help finish off the mountain once grabbed. Falling off during this point does not reward you anything besides your earlier work from below that point, so if you're wanting to rack scores high, you have to be quick but also extraordinarily careful during this section. Afterwards, you advance to the next mountain and rinse and repeat. Later on, you get enemies such as nitpickers and this asshole polar bear who likes to fucking push the screen up when you're taking just a bit too much on one level. Now, these enemies aren't that bad, but what makes the later mountains so insanely difficult is the platforming, which tied with your controls is a fucking task test on your fingers. Popo and Nana control like usual on normal terrain, very little traction being given, but on special ice terrains and these fucking hatched ice floors, they are fucking impossible to control correctly. That, along with the fact some platforms like clouds have ceilings to them and the way they bounce off walls, and you got a game that has no bearing on the word fun tied to its gameplays. But that's not even the worst of it. What makes the game so fucking insufferable to me is the way they fucking jump. I understand that they are weighed down by their mallets. I mean, you ever tried holding a mallet? But their jump distances are so fucking inconsistent, and the way platforms are designed makes some jumps fucking impossible to land even correctly. Not perfectly, correctly. God, I can live with the bonus stage, the enemies, and the platforms themselves, but the coding on the platforms along with the jumping makes this game infuriating to play when you get past the 3rd mountain. And there's 32 of these things in fucking total. The worst of it all is timing a jump to land on a moving platform. God fucking damn it. Popo can never fucking land on this shit no matter how much it looks like, so... Oh, fuck! I am so fucking done with this. It's not fucking fair half the time. Every fucking fail from these bonus levels is because either my traction made me slip off a platform into the abyss, or I just couldn't get a fucking proper landing on this bullshit. I will admit though, The fucking jankiness of this game, along with the chaos multiplayer, gives in general kind of makes this slightly fun with friends. Not a recommended multiplayer game to play, but me and my friends were definitely having our moments when playing this game. But honestly, who in the hell actually likes this game? Like, is there a single person in this world that actually thinks this game is enjoyable by any means possible? Well, it says here that the former president of Finland's son-in-law considers Ice Climber his favorite game. Well, no shit, he probably had to hike mountains in the cold all fucking day. He probably idolizes it. You know what? Fuck this game. Let's just get on to the next one. So our next bullet to bite is Balloon Fight. In this game, you play as Balloon Fighter number 1, Balloon Fighter number 2 if again playing with 2 players, with your main goal being to pop these Goblin Guys balloons. You hold 2 balloons per life and can control your rise by either mashing A or holding B. Holding B automatically gives you a quick rise when compared to mashing, but doesn't give you an accurate control over your horizontal distance, while mashing A makes you rely on your speed to rise but lets you have better accuracy since you know when to stop and turn and such. You can pop these guys balloons, which puts them in their parachute, and at that point they'll either land and either successfully or unsuccessfully refill their balloon. Or you can pop them out of the sky while they're in their parachute. You can even clear these guys before they can launch into the air. Yeah, take that, fatso. And that too, you prick. Of course, if these guys reach you first, they can pop one of your balloons, which will decrease your flotation, making it harder for you to rise and making you descend faster. If Balloon Fighter manages to get both of his balloons popped, falls into water, or gets eaten by this thing, then you lose a life. Lose all lives and that's a game over. There also exists lightning in the game, which can travel across the screen and pop your balloons, though they're more prominent in the side mode game Balloon Trip. A little side mode that serves to help practice your accuracy and control. I mean, it doesn't say it's a practice mode, but I consider it as such given its infinite length and many lightning bolts to try and make you figure ways around them. The gameplay is simple, fun, and not a hassle to control. I do like this game and think it's probably the best of the action-packed series, disregarding Super Mario Bros. No, actually, even with Super Mario Bros, I still think this game is more fun overall. Even better with 2 players because it's not turn-taking and you can do some funny-ass shit with a partner. Alright, next one we'll be covering is Clu Clu Land. Now, Clu Clu Land is a bit different because unlike those games, which usually have a lot of platforming or could require you to go on an adventure like, you know, an action series would be, Clu Clu Land isn't exactly like that. So when you think of action, what comes first to your mind? Hitting, jumping, smacking around enemies? Well, Clu Clu Land does none of that. The game instead is a puzzle game. Very odd to put the label of action series on this game, but anyways, for this one you're controlling a character named Bubbles. Bobbles joins in if you have 2 players, and your goal is to unveil some sort of design, line art, or face by flipping over coins via grabbing onto these poles to swing around in place and letting go at a specific direction, all the while avoiding these weird urchin dudes and later on black holes. Ignoring the fact that the area she's in isn't collapsing in on itself, why black holes? Wouldn't it make more sense to have, oh, I don't know, a whirlpool? I mean, this does take place underwater, right? Also, apparently you can shoot sound waves at the urchin dudes to push them away, which I didn't know about because I thought it was fucking useless. You can also collect different kind of items to rack up your points, and also grab this clock that helps you freeze time so that you can flip over more coins while the urchin dudes can do nothing about it. If I'm going to be honest, I think this game is kind of lame. It's definitely a very strategic puzzle game that actually requires you to think from the very start, but there wasn't really a whole end goal besides flipping over all the coins before the time runs out or you lose your lives. Like, at least with Balloon Fighter, I'm knocking heads out the sky, and Ice Climbers, I went through hell and back to finally make it to the top of the mountain. But this game shows that the action series label was a mistake to put on the package. It isn't the same sense of action as the other action series games, minus one which we'll cover next. But even the next one is fun to play. This is really only fun if you want to rack up high scores while also making your brain pump energy. And that's just not what I was feeling playing this game. Hell, even my friend just wanted to get past this game because we just found it so lame to play. It's not a bad game per se, but I don't think it deserves the action series label on its package. The final game under the action series label that we'll be covering is Pinball, which I don't think deserves the label, but unlike Clu Clu Land, it is subjectively fun to play. Okay, so this is where my bias really starts getting into play here, but in case you haven't met me before, one of the earliest games I grew up with that wasn't a Nintendo game was stuff on Windows XP. More specifically, Space Cadet 3D Pinball. This shit was a fucking blast as a kid. It looked just like the real thing, except unlike with the real thing, this one doesn't make me spend money, and it looks a lot cooler. And for that, I always hold a special love to virtual pinball games. If a video game lets you play pinball or has some sort of pinball gimmick to it, then I already like the game 10 times more. Pinball is that game, but more bland and simple and uncreative, besides these little penguin fucks. Yup, it's pinball alright. High score racking video game. I am a bit surprised by the way the game controls. Well, maybe not how it controls, but the overall realism of the game when it comes to the way the ball is hit or what angle it's hit at. I know that sounds dumb since it is a pinball game. Virtually all of them have the same physics, to put it that way. But for an early NES title, this is pretty impressive. Here, I thought the game would be unresponsive at some points, or the ball would fling at a different angle, even if I hit it earlier or later or such. But no, it's like how I expected a virtual pinball to play. In fact, it almost feels like the Space Cadet one, though that one is definitely a lot more faster and has more realistic pinball physics tied to it. One other thing that confuses me is the box art itself. It's literally a fucking clickbait package. Like, why is Mario there? Why is the game like Breakout? Why is it an action series game? None of these are in there. Okay, well, that's 2/3 of a lie. If you manage to roll the ball in this very small brown glory hole, you can play a sort of breakout minigame where you play as Mario and have to hold a ball in place all the while waiting for Pauline to drop from the room above and bring her to safety. Lose the ball or drop Pauline and the ball is spit back out from the top. Sure, it's in the game, but the thing is hard to fucking get by. I didn't even get it in my first playthrough. I had to go back and re-record it after spending God knows how long to try and line up the shot. Think of it like a clickbait video. Sure, the part of the video it shows in the thumbnail is in there, but it takes 5 minutes to finally get to that part, and it's only discussed for 20 seconds max. This shit should not be the box art of this game. Simply having a flipper flinging a ball would have worked fine enough for the box art. Well, that's all for the action games. Those were mostly all the titles, except for one, but we're gonna save that one for later. So, what can be considered an action title? Well, anything can be considered an action title, so long as you can rack up points and you die before the 3rd level out of 50.